Welcome to the TokenMarket.net podcast. I am your host, Gavin Knight. Thank you for tuning in. Check out our site for digital asset research, a calendar of upcoming events, and many future upcoming releases. Our podcast features team members of projects in the cryptocurrency space to help shed light on their developments. Just because a project is on our podcast doesn't mean we recommend investment, so always research and engage wisely. So I'm here with Alex Leverrington from Golem, who just had a successful crowd sale. So we wanted to talk about that, the future, and a little bit about Ethereum as well. So Alex is the architect of the P2P network for Golem, and also was a core developer with Ethereum helping implement their P2P protocol. So first, let's talk about the sale. You guys closed in 29 minutes. Were you surprised? How does it feel to get funded and go full force now?
Well, we were shocked. Um, that may be an understatement. But yeah, the like everyone was at the office in Poland. Like most of the team is in Poland, and and they were all there, like watching Blockchain Explorer, watching the client, and like we had shifts set up for the entire 6 week period. So like everyone had a certain time of day that they were going to watch everything. And so like just before the funding started, um, everybody was figuring out what time they're going to be there, and all this stuff. So so then when it finished in 30 minutes, nobody knew what to do because we didn't have to watch it anymore. So that was a really it was a very pleasant surprise. Um, and we the team has already started. I mean, everyone's been head down. Actually, everyone's been working on Golem since before the crowdfunding started, because we wanted to make sure that the alpha client or the proof of concept client was like people could use it and give us feedback. Um, but as far as development, we are currently in the process of um, understanding exactly how we're going to transition from the proof of concept client to Brass, which will have um, integrate Ethereum transactions, and also transitioning from the proof of concept peer-to-peer network um, to a peer-to-peer network that is sort of a continuation of what was developed for Ethereum. So the initial peer-to-peer protocol with Ethereum is just built for Ethereum, and uh, Ethereum's the broadcast network, so there aren't small swarms of nodes working on a single set of tasks. It's just all the nodes are working on the same thing. So with Golem, um, we need a peer-to-peer network that can um, uh, work kind of more in swarms, but a little different than BitTorrent. So kind of a hybrid uh, between uh, between between a blockchain and BitTorrent. So we are looking at what changes and updates we need to make to the protocol, um, and generally working to ensure that what we release with Brass is stable and uh, and secure, so people won't lose their funds.
Right. So you have a number of release names. So if people aren't knowing, brass, clay, stone, iron, brass golem, clay golem. So brass is clay before brass. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have a hard time remembering them too, but Brass is first, and then clay, and then stone, and then iron.
All right. Well, That's an interesting order. But anyways, Brasses will be your first release off of your test net, the TGNT, even though I guess the tokens are tradable now. So basically, if you don't know Golem, I would say you issue computational tasks. People want to do rendering, they want to do AI research or something where they need a lot of computation, and they would use your token to issue that to, like you said, swarms. And because the tasks sort of, I guess, need to have some connection to each other. You need to have those clients interact, is kind of what you're saying. But
Yeah.
what? So I see in the alpha you have CGI rendering. What limitations do you have? Can you tap into GPU? Can you? I mean, is there any limiting factor to what Golem couldn't do compared to, say, a traditional quote unquote supercomputer, or what I might say a large scaled Google Cloud instance?
The short answer is no, but the long answer is not until after iron. Um, so um, Golem will be better for tasks that take a long period, that take a long amount of time, and that are easy to where it's easy to validate the progress, or um, where the replication of work, um, where the overhead of replicating work is worth the um, is doesn't go over the cost reduction relative to just like running it on EC2. So initially, like long term, you should be able to do anything because um, application developers and service providers and the reputation system um, could be used to like route requests that need some, like say something actually needs a supercomputer. You could put that supercomputer on Golem. Um, so that's how I can say, well, yes, it can do anything. Um, but for us to get the network to where you can discover the resources that you want to commit to work um, in a general way, that's going to take some time.
So let's talk just a little bit about economics first, the ground level. Um, is it going to be cheaper if I want to use it? And, what kind of money would I make by sharing my computer? And I know you can't give like exact values, but obviously I think the decentralized component is to scale and also to provide uh, better cost performance, and also compensation to those people using it. So you talk a little bit about how you think those economics will drive Golem to be competitive and also pay the end user.
Um, I, I, I don't know because this hasn't been done before. Um, so, or not to my knowledge. I would expect that the the profit that somebody could make with their home computer is going to be somewhere around 50% of the profit that service providers today make right now. Um, and and the profit, yeah, I don't think it's something that can be predicted because ultimately, once the network really gets going and workloads can transition from legacy data centers to Golem, um, it's going to depend on demand. So if we imagine that Golem is 100% utilized, then somebody will want to pay more to get their work done earlier at a higher priority, and then the person running their home computer at home is going to make more. But if that demand's not there, then it's just going to be competitive to EC2 and such.
Right, right. I didn't expect you to have an exact value, but um,
I have
So
no idea.
yeah, well, in theory, people will pay for the service, and those people that provide computation will get some kind of compensation.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it doesn't sound like an idealistic mission in this sense, but do you feel like you're sort of disintermediating these bigger companies that um, you know at scale charge more than what it costs them, and instead giving money to the average person? Have you seen any pushback from any companies, or are you just too under the radar right now?
Um, well, I don't think we'll see pushback because there's a lot of there's a lot of computing facilities that are idle, and they have no way of putting their idle facilities onto a market. Um, so if with Golem providing that, it's going to be difficult for them to push back because they have shareholders, and I mean, they would either need to build an alternative market, um, or go it on their own, competing against Golem, trying to share their idle compute resources with the world.
Right. So you're saying some of the bigger providers might actually see Golem as a way. I mean, obviously, if I go to Amazon and I get an EC2 instance, it's just there. So there has to be extra resources in some sense. So you're saying some of the bigger providers might actually see Golem as, an API of sorts to lease out resources when they're available, and
Yeah,
then yeah, so it could actually, be a good middle ground. Um, so part of what I think about Golem is the integration with software. Um, if I want to do CGI rendering and I'm in, I don't know, Blender or this software, how do you see it being easy for the digital artist or the developer and things like that to use Golem? How hard will it be to submit tasks and, um, I guess what is your overall vision of making that as seamless as possible?
yeah. Well, the the ideal hypothetical user interface is one where the artist goes to needs to the software the artist is using needs to perform some computation, and the artist can either have it run the computation locally on their machine or farm it off, fork it off to Golem. And ideally, the the software application will mask the complexity of of whether the task is processed on Golem or processed locally on their local computer.
Right. I know Unity and some other things have plugins and extensions and stuff. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess someone might do it for you, but it's possible that um, Golem could be integrated, say, into Unity. How would the artist or developer get the tokens in that case? Would they have to go to an exchange, buy the tokens, and then submit the task? Or could there be some gateway or something so it's quite simple?
Well, that's that's I think that's going to be a good user experience for us to figure out somewhere around Iron release, Stone or Iron. Um, I don't know what's going to be easier for the user, but there's two possibilities. So one is that the you know Golem is established as this general token that people just buy, kind of like electricity or solar panels, or gasoline. Um, and that sounds a little complicated. The other is that the application, um, the the software that they're using can do it for them. So, you know, like a lot of software is moving towards yearly or monthly licenses, and those software subscriptions could easily move towards, free, and you just you just pay them for the computational aspect.
I was a gamer for a while. I did I played a little bit with Unity. So you have like I have this machine sitting here. Um, I use it as a desktop, but I have a nice amount of RAM and a graphics card. So in theory, what an artist could do is when they're sleeping or they're idle, they could run their machine, earn the Golem tokens, and then when they need to do processing, they could use it back. So there's potential that they could earn enough to submit their task just by running it while they're asleep, right? I kind of see that in no offense to game developers and artists, but a lot of them are struggling. They're up and coming, they're working on, they're bootstrapping, and so in the sense that they can monetize this, they probably spent $1,000, $2,000 on this setup. They can monetize that, and then when they need to do a task, it's relatively free. I kind of see that as a very like symbiotic relationship because even if you're running your computer, say 70% load, it's really not going to reduce the lifespan by much, right? So do you kind of see that as being a pitch? Hey, if you want to do great, you want to do faster rendering, just give your resources to the network at night, and then during the day, you can use the rendering.
Definitely. I mean, I think that um, that is essentially the vision, um, coupled with the Golem network software also being able to facilitate that at a professional level. So you may have the same situation where fast forward 5 years later, and the same person who was, like tweaking his computer and trying to get these tasks running, is now running a rendering farm or something, or he's working in a, you know, video editing or something, and um, and they have idle compute resources, and it's the same exact thing. I guess what I'm saying is it's the same thing in the office environment as well. Like you have people working in an office, and they're like, you know, uh, we need to we need to utilize what we have, and it is very symbiotic, and I also think that it can help people learn how it works, and the tools will get better. Um, that's the most important part. So um, I just rambled on a little bit.
No, and it's fine. I think you could have an office space. I love Linux. I'm not, super expert, but you put some cron jobs on all the computers, and basically, at 6 p.m. you start up a process, assuming it's not going to burn a bunch of electricity, and then at 7 a.m., boom, the cron job kills it. And then, you wake up and then your boss looks at his account and says, oh, we've got an X amount. And even if he doesn't need to use it, he can sell it. And
Yeah,
I
yes.
did actually talk to another company. Um, it's called Suchflex. And they were doing some similar stuff, and they actually pivoted away. And this is interesting. But yeah, they had a similar idea. Basically, hey, any company, gaming center, LAN center, and they decided not to do that. And that's kind of got me more excited about Golem because, you guys are attacking that space. And I'll just bring in the thing that he said. He said, look, one of our biggest customers are these LAN centers. Like especially in South Korea they have a lot, but in the United States where they have 50 gaming machines, all high end to play Counter Strike, and they don't do anything at night.
Yeah.
And something like Golem, they just run the tasks on um, their gaming center, and now they have extra income. And I can guarantee you that those places, at least in the United States, have tight budgets.
Yeah, and I think the thing I was trying to get to earlier is that um, I think that these software tools are becoming easier. Like, like we might see people coming into one of those LAN centers and they're working on Unity, like they're working on their own game instead of like playing a video game. Um, and and I think I think that these tools are becoming easier to use and more accessible to people in general, and to like low-level programmers. So so I think as far as it being symbiotic, I think that the tools are a part of that process, and that as the tools improve, um, it's going to be more obvious for somebody with a land center to run Golem, because it's going to be easier for any individual to build something that will be able to use software that leverages Golem.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a an often disconnect between complexity and ease of use, and companies that tend to make those things as close as possible often succeed. So, yeah, I think the GUI, the integrations, the front end, the outreach, and all of that's going to be huge for this. And I also liked what you said about software licenses in the sense that, say, Adobe could run some tasks and collect Golem tokens, and then they could basically include in the license that you get this super rendering, and they didn't really cost them anything because Adobe has, huge amounts, or maybe they already have a rendering service. I'm not sure, but in the sense that a software license could include some Golem rendering from that company. Um,
Yeah.
so off of that tangent, let's get to the brass tacks. And I know it's hard to give exact dates, but when can people use this? And I know you mentioned iron a lot. When do you think this will actually be the vision that you have cast?
Well, so I mean, I do want to clarify that, you is fourth person. There's um, the guys in Poland came up with Golem, and so we've got a little bit, like, there's I think there's a shared vision.
Well,
Um,
let's take a second then. I don't mean to cut you off, but obviously, yes, you're one piece of the team. We have, let's see, I'm just do the first names: Julian, Piotr, Andrzej, Alexandra. So, what is the team like? Let's give everyone credit, and then we can kind of get into how the vision has been shaped and the timelines. So, do you want to mention some of those other people on the team?
um, yeah, sure. So um, Julian is um, CEO, like, he's the guy with the whip. And making sure, like making sure that we're basically always pushing software, like always releasing. um, uh, Piotr, uh, he's he works low level, and I think worked on the nano payments white paper, and I believe has done some demo scene stuff. So maybe we'll see some interesting um, Golem, like, decentralized demo scene. That'll be interesting. Um, Andre helps with business and organization. Um, Alexandra, um, she uh, she is really good with analyzing feasibility and helping to keep things to what is necessary, and to ensure that it does what we say it's going to do. Um, Pavel, uh, I can't remember how to pronounce his last name, but I think Belisha. He currently, well, he works with Ethereum on the just-in-time compiler. So he's like our EVM expert. Um, and when we go through making sure that our code is secure, um, uh, and also in the design and architecture of the smart contracts, Um, Pablo's very helpful there.
Great.
Uh,
I know there's some other people,
yeah,
but I just wanted to give you a little bit of time. So if I missed somebody, sorry, but those are just a few people on the team.
yes,
So to put it in perspective, and obviously it sounds like you have some great talent. So you'll be able to achieve this big goal. Uh,
yeah,
you
and
can't
basically,
do that alone. So I guess my so, sorry to I just want to get to the point that I like
yeah, go
that.
ahead.
What are your timelines like? I mean, I've seen a lot of projects. I guess I won't name names, but it takes a really long time, and then they soft launch, and it's just not where people want it. And so how long do you think this process might take, and how confident are you on meeting those big goals?
Well, um, the first release, Brass, uh, is slated for May, and I personally feel pretty confident about that because we have a proof of concept that works now. So what we're looking at doing both with Brass and with each release is to um, is to improve and enhance the previous release. So um, I don't think it's going to be a soft launch situation. I think that we're going to be engaging and interactive early on. So hopefully next month we'll have a sort of system um, for registering providers and requesters and application developers, um, and have them using the software and tools that are going to be in production in May.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good to hear. Um, Ethereum really needs something solid to come out and do itself justice. I mean, I think there's a big community, but maybe Golem will be one of the leaders of successful launches and large user base types, dApps or DAOs, or what would you call this a DApp or a DAO or which terminology?
Oh, it's a Golem network.
Okay, it's a golem. I like that. I like that. I'm not a big fan of the, there's so many DApp, DAO, So it is its own thing. I also wanted to mention that apparently you guys are hiring. So if you click join on the website golem.network and you really want to get involved, you have some of this experience. There is some opportunities there. So I was kind of segueing there into Ethereum needing, I wouldn't say a killer app, but needing some consistent apps. Now, I know you mentioned that you worked on some of the P2P architecture for Ethereum. So I'm just going to ask general question. You can go into it as much or as little as you want. What are your current thoughts on the status of Ethereum? Let's say technology, security, and price. And you can address that how you want. I don't want to lead you into a corner there.
Well, let's get price out of the way first. I tell everyone the same thing. You know, and it becomes more exaggerated every time. But um, it could be, it could be worth 3 cents or $300, or $3,000. Um, like I don't. Ethereum is just like generalized EVM, and and for the technology that it has slated in future releases, like Metropolis and Serenity, um, those significantly change the value proposition of what you can or can't do with Ether. Um, Plus, there's also the learning curve of the miners and the gas price market. Um, and there's also the aspect of security and technology of competing systems. So, we've seen Ethereum be attacked over the last 6 months, intentionally. And we haven't seen the same kind of efforts mounted against other systems. And once somebody squeezes, all the profit they can get out of hacking at Ethereum, Ethereum's going to become really resilient, and they might start looking for another target. So, so I guess in general, I think the blockchain space in general, like public chains, over the next 18 months, is just going to be really, really volatile. Um, but at the end of the day, um, the chain is eventually consistent, and we see that the community is really responsive in upgrading their client software. Um, so, it's not going to die. And and this is, I think, ultimately this is why we're building Golem on Ethereum and not just launching our own chain, is because um, we it would be difficult to match the amount of support that to match Ethereum's community. Um, so for Golem, the technology is really important because as Ethereum adopts optimizations like scalability or proof of stake or whatever it ends up doing, that's going to lower the cost and increase the throughput of the Golem network. Um, so so we're looking forward to those improvements, and the technology that comes with it, and the security that comes with it.
Yeah. So I have to kind of agree to disagree, but I think
That's
the
fair. On which part?
um, in terms of security exploits, I did a little video about Golem. I'm not Golem, but Ethereum, and I had a slide that all it said is hackers gonna hack. You know, um, it's just inevitable. Hackers gonna hack. Somebody's gonna come along. We don't know who it is. We don't know which network, and sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. Sometimes it's a white hat. Sometimes they set off alarms, and so I think no matter what happens, now I do kind of feel like yes. Possibly something got under some group's skin and they went harder rather than like because a big thing about Ethereum is the economics, right? So why hack a system that you have vested interest in,
Right.
unless you're shorting it or something like that? But I also just think like and like I said, it's kind of trite, but hackers gonna hack. Like if there's an opportunity, if there's something like if there's a doorknob and you get a hacker, he's going to figure out how to open it. Like, you know, um, so on one hand, it sucks. On the other hand, like you said, it makes the network robust. So in the long term, a lot of things get patched and found. Unfortunately, like the DAO and things like this were very expensive to find. Um, so that's the phrase I like to tell people. I messed it up when I said it before, but there's a phrase in Silicon Valley. There's two types of companies: those that have been hacked and those that don't know they have been yet.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So so you know I think every network is being gone at, but definitely the rate that it went. I will just say this is a juicy topic for listeners. I'd say it's possible this something really got under someone's skin, and
Well,
and and they made it a full-time job.
I,
But
I, I,
but who knows?
um, I, let- hmm, the sentiment that I've observed is that um, is that someone out there wanted to see what would happen, I guess. Like wanted to kind of push buttons. Like it may not be that something got under their skin. It's just that's an easy perception. Like that's like that's even popular right now too, right? So you're a CEO, CTO, or whatever, some big company, and you get hacked. Well, what do? Oh, the Russians hacked us.
Yes,
Oh, the
yes.
Chinese hacked us. Like, you pull out the terrorist thing. You'd be like, oh, somebody was really mad at us, so they hacked us. Um, you know, and and it's easy to miss, the guy that's working next door, and he knows what's going on, and he works with a fund, and they just shorted the market and hacked you because it's profitable to do that.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's a similar situation, but let's just say, I've been around hacker spaces, if people don't know, sort of like internet cafes for, people that like Linux and stuff, and I knew people that, they look at a router and they say, how could I, jailbreak this or something,
Yeah,
and it was just the challenge. And if they were able to figure it out, that was enough payout, right? That
yeah,
that 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 they some people they might spend months and then they get that result. But like in this case, right, there's economics at play and there's hedge funds and shorting. But honestly, I like, Hillary should have Hillary should have used PGP. Or so if we want to get political. So
well, same with the voting machines.
Right. So on one hand, I'm like, oh, you guys, like, you took a hit and then you took another hit, and then on the other hand, I'm like, well, maybe that should have been, patched, but it's a completely new system. So I did I can link you a video. It's on our YouTube. I did a video about basically um, the from the beginning to where we are now in Ethereum. And basically, if you look at the year with Ethereum, it was like destroyed, like
Yeah,
so many bad things. And at the end of it, I'm like, and Ethereum's still alive. So if you see this as like the death of Ethereum, it's for me, it's like a guy that got stabbed and got back up and stabbed and got back, and now he's he's stronger. So I guess I just wanted to drive that point home because there is a lot of worry and people are complaining about Ethereum and things like that. But um, ultimately, like you said, the ICO price was 0.0005.
yeah,
So if you got in initially, you're still doing great, right? But we don't know where that price discovery is going to be. But hacker's going to hack. That's
yeah.
my that I rambled there, but that's my defense and my offense on Ethereum. Uh, Name anything, hacker's going to try to hack that.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, for me personally, and and potentially, I think for Golem, um, uh, this is, I mean, this is a good thing for it to be going through this before our software really goes into production. Um, I mean, if all of this started to take place next year after all of the popular dApps were built, it could be more catastrophic than what's happening now. And the other thing that this has, the other side effect of these attacks is that application developers are looking at how to build their applications in a way that are somewhat insulated from this. So, you know, some of them are storing state in their own system so that if Ethereum goes down, you know, it's there's or there's an upgrade or some opcode changes or whatever. Um, there's a way to recover from that. So
Right.
it's 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 either way, it's going to be really powerful side effect, um, and possibly a good. It's a preview of things to come, I think, as well.
Right, right. I and I wanted to throw a curveball at you. If the DAO, I kind of feel like, the DAO had obviously hundreds of millions, and there was one project in the wings, and it would take a while to get vetted. That happened, and the funds are returned. I feel like Ethereum is self-DAOing. Like, it's finding those projects and it's putting money into them and saying, we need this, we need this, we need this, because this is going to make the network more successful. So I almost feel like what happened with the DAO opened up a lot of capital to those investors and is being sort of individually pumped to, Ethereum companies to make things stronger. So do you kind of feel like maybe some of that like investment money that was returned, they're reinvesting into Golem and reinvesting because they believe that something like Golem is going to strengthen the ecosystem and this and this and this. Maybe the similar folks that invested in DAO are now saying, okay, well, I have these funds and they're investing directly into the companies.
Um, I think that that's a part of the sentiment of the um, of I want to say of investors, but people that contributed Ether, um, because they 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 could just do something else with those funds. So um, yeah, I think that's a part of it.
Right. Yeah, it's a little bit like Ethereum roulette, like no, not in a bad way, but hey, there's five, six projects. They all look good. Let's throw some money in it and wish the best. And if, one or two, maybe all of them rise up and become, mass market adopted or at least very popular, then Ethereum has proved that it's very, very useful. And that's the only thing about Ethereum for me is in order to prove that it's very useful, we need to see a successful project running on it. It's kind of counterintuitive. I think it is a useful thing, but I want to see something very successful run on it, and then I can say, here's a use case. Here's a business, and look what Ethereum can do. So hopefully Golem can be that. Um, Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Um, well, other than the yes, so um, if if there are software developers out there um, and you have some kind of software that can utilize computing or concurrency, we're interested in getting that software running on Golem. So um, uh, go to golem.network and join Slack and join the testers and help us test the software. But uh, we're going to be looking for that over the next 60 days. So
And do you have any kind of bounty program or some type of, I don't know, like what kind of assistance do you provide for people that want to onboard Golem?
I think we're going to develop the community a little bit first, like build um, like get a more connected community before we go the bounty route, and that way we can figure out how to um, you know create bounties that are a common interest between the developers building on Golem and the providers and the Golem software itself. So that's
Yeah,
kind of
I would
that's
say
how the
I would say that's the best routes. I mean, I've seen a lot of bounties, Twitter bounties, news bounties, but you really want to have the whole system streamlined so that when you do throw a little bit of cash at somebody, you can have them, move through the process. So that sounds like a great idea.
yeah.
So, anyways, Alex Leverington from Golem Project, Golem Network. And then, of course, we want to, as we said earlier, acknowledge all the other people. I like to say it's a team effort. This is just one person. So go ahead and visit golem.network/team to see some of the other people involved. And golem.network